Hi, my name's Megan, and you're listening to Career Congregation, a weekly conversation around all things career. Every week, I interview people who have done or are doing amazing and inspirational things in their career. I like to feature real people and their stories and struggles, the decisions they made, the rock bottom moments, and the experiences and inner shifts they had that shaped their careers. If these conversations resonate with you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, or share this episode with someone. You never know who you might inspire. If you think you know someone who might be a good guest on the show, please also send them my way. And if you'd like to support any of this work more directly, there's a coffee link in my bio where you can buy me a coffee. Every little bit helps support to keep these conversations going. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation. Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be joined today by the fabulous Sarah Barnes Humphrey, who is known for quite a few things. She's best known as being the founder of her podcast, Let's Talk Supply Chain. She also has another podcast, which I'm going to be starring in next year, called Blended, which sounds really cool, and I'm excited to have controversial discussions with a blend of people. Sarah is a storyteller, an entrepreneur, and a fierce advocate for self-worth and authentic leadership. And she has such an incredible story, her life journey to get her to where she is now is one that should definitely be heard and recognized, and I think will be something that a lot of people can experience growth from and inspiration, all of the things that she's been through. So welcome, Sarah. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. You and I met, before we even did this, and we kicked it off, and I think we could have talked for like hours. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. I guess, can we start by you telling everyone a little bit about your background, so your cultural background, ethnicity, upbringing, and where, your current location, because I have a very global audience, so I always like having people say where they're dialing in from.
Yeah, so my family, my extended family on both my parents' side are British. But my brother and I were born in Canada, and so grew up in Canada in the Toronto area. And then we moved to Vancouver, and I did high school in Vancouver. And then we moved back to Toronto, and we were there for quite a while. And we've just recently moved to Florida.
Okay. Okay. I love Canadians. There's a lot of Canadians that I've worked with, and I think it's like the Commonwealth thing because I grew up in the UK, so there's just a lot of Canadians that go there and in Australia. The big question though, because you had a real different experience there, so what's your preference, Vancouver or Toronto? I think that's quite a kind of question.
I think Toronto has my heart, although I like visiting Vancouver. Vancouver can be very wet. I went through high school, and it was like weeks upon weeks of walking through the rain to school every day and being soaked. And I think I have really bad memories of that. And it's like a bone chilling cold, especially during the winter. It's a bone chilling cold.
Yeah.
And then you're soaking wet, and it's just miserable. But I love it. It's beautiful there. But also, I graduated in 1998. So it was before the Olympics had gone there. There wasn't a lot of jobs, I'll be honest. Most people were going to school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I didn't want to go to college or university. So, yeah. It's also timing too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done a lot of Canada, but I have done Vancouver and Whistler. And I love Vancouver. I love it, but I think I'm very accustomed to the climate of the Pacific Northwest. It's very UK, and now I'm in Ireland. I just ordered rain boots. I just kind of accept that not everything can be great weather, And I think that the more interesting cities tend to be birthed as a result of weird bad weather because they have to make like other things that you do more interesting because
Yeah,
you
that's
can't
fair.
just sit outside and be like, it's so beautiful. You know, you
Yeah.
have
Well,
to
it's
like,
well, in Toronto, they have an underground path for the winter. So you can
oh
actually
yeah,
get to
that's like
places in the
in
city like
Minnesota.
underground. Hmm.
Yeah, because it's so cold.
So cold. Uh-huh. I didn't want to do that anymore either. So you see,
Yeah.
weather determines where I live. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I can't handle when it's too cold. Like I can't ski at Christmas because it's too
Yeah.
cold. I'm like a spring skier or not at all. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so now you are in Miami?
No, just north of Tampa.
Oh, Tampa, sorry, excuse me. You're in Florida, yes. So how are you enjoying that? Do you like being there?
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we love it.
Nice.
We've been able to make a community. We also have family here, so it's been really great.
Okay. So from your early days, what would you say were some of your the earliest things that shaped you and your sort of outlook on like
Mhm.
life and work? What did you get from, I don't like to say specifically parents because not everyone was raised by the traditional mother,
Yeah,
father,
yeah.
but yeah, your caregivers. What did you pick up from them about sort of work ethic? What shaped
Yeah.
you in your early
Yeah,
days?
so I have two entrepreneurial parents, right? So, my dad had worked all over the world, ended up in Canada. He was working for a logistics company, and then
Okay.
he went and opened up his own logistics company. And my mom was working some other jobs, and she ended up joining the business. And
Hmm.
so technically, I had two very entrepreneurial parents growing up, which I think probably shaped the fact. I mean, I stayed with that company up until 2017.
Okay.
And so I was within that family dynamic. There was a lot to learn, right? Especially when
Yeah.
you're trying to run a company and you've got family involved and you've got bosses in between, and then your friend gets fired. Like, there are so many things that you have to go through and understand about other people and what you can talk about and what you can't talk about and who you can trust and who you can't trust, because some
Mm,
people just want to get close to you because your parents own the company.
yeah.
So I would say there was a lot of different things. I learned a lot of different things. Like, my mom was HR, my dad was running a company. And I would work like 12-hour days just to sort of prove myself.
Yeah.
So it was that work ethic. It was the entrepreneurial spirit. But I think if you're talking about my childhood, there was a few different things that kind of shaped who I am and where I am today. So in grade 5, I was in speech competitions, and I got up in front of the class to practice my speech for the competition the next day. And the
Hmm.
class threw paper balls at me and booed. And that actually changed the whole trajectory of my wanting to be in public or be seen
Yeah.
or be heard, because I just went, "Ooh," and
Yeah,
like
I mean
totally went in for
that's
it.
a core wound that because you're still in your developmental years, so that will
Yeah.
be like ingrained.
Yeah. It took me a very long time. I would say like almost 30 years to get over. And I'm still not over it. So I have panic attacks on stage, and I get a lot of anxiety about speaking in public. And I have two podcasts.
Yeah, well,
Um,
so different because I've had people say this to me like you should give a speech, you have a podcast, and I'm like it is not live and I can edit it and it's like me and my guest and I'm very comfortable on the podcast. It
yeah.
is different
Yeah.
when you're standing on a stage, like you can't hit pause, you can't edit, like it's totally
But I still
different.
do the stage. I still do the stage. I've been in
Good.
front of like 2,500 people. I
Oh my
conduct like
God.
fireside chats. But it's one of the things that I talk about in the book around like the empathy and the safe space that I'm able to create, because I've kind of like I can empathize with a lot of different people over a lot of different things that have happened throughout my life.
Hmm.
And it's my superpower of being able to create that safe space so other people feel seen and heard, because that's what I
Yeah.
didn't have for most of my
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah, so on the topic of your book, which I feel very grateful that I received an advanced copy of it. So thank you very much. I've just read the introduction and was completely blown away by the introduction. So the book is called "I Buried Her in a French Press." There we
Yep.
go.
A
And
memoir about finding my voice and the power of being heard.
yeah, so on the topic of finding your voice and the power of being heard, in the introduction, you explain some health stuff that you battled with for so much of your life. And I have seen this with friends, with family, with clients, specifically with women. And I'm not trying to be sexist here, but we do live in a patriarchy. And there is just this huge like element of, I don't want to say specifically like medical gaslighting, but like doctors, that don't know what's wrong. I see it a lot around women's health, like with periods and like cysts and PCOS and all this kind of stuff. When they can't figure it out, they like send you along, or they try to make you feel like it's your fault. Or like you don't have a medical degree, so like you shouldn't be trying to challenge this position of authority, right? And I see it so often. It's really frustrating, and I think women really need to advocate for themselves. I mean, everyone needs to advocate for themselves, but we know we know our bodies, and we know when something isn't right. And so when someone tries to tell you that it's fine or that it's your fault, it's like, no, no.
Hmm.
So I was really moved by your introduction, and I can completely see how that will have shaped you and help you find your voice and advocate for yourself. So, can you tell everyone about your health challenges and what you
Yeah.
experienced? Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to. There's actually 11% of people globally that suffer from lipedema, and most people don't know that they have it. So
Okay.
I try to talk about it however and wherever I can. But for the longest time, I didn't know what I had. So I had really thick, well, I had a shelf on my ankles. So I think most people would call that like cankles. So like throughout high school, I played softball. I was a catcher, so I had big thighs. And so
Hmm.
I never really thought anything of it. And then in my early 20s, this shelf on my ankle really started to develop. And I was like, what is this? I'm playing softball 4 times a week. I'm a catcher. Like, I'm doing 150 squats a game. Like, why do my legs not look like everybody else's? Why aren't they, skinny and like,
Yeah,
why
to
don't
be
they look
like
like everybody else's?
toned.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I started talking to my doctor about it, and she started sending me to specialists because she had absolutely no idea what it was. And so I went to a heart specialist who told me that I should just watch what I put in my mouth and I'd lose 10 pounds and then I'd be a happy girl. And then I went to a vein specialist who told me that I should start running because runners don't have fat legs. And then I went to a neurologist who told me that if I got pregnant, I would have tree stump legs for the rest of my life. And I was like, man, I don't know if I want children. Like those types of things, like
Hmm.
really get you to your core, right? And then I went to this kidney specialist, and he sent me for an MRI on my thighs to see if there was water in there. And there wasn't water. And he asked if he could use the X-rays because I'd been a catcher for so long. I had perfect thighs underneath whatever this was. And he was like, "Can I use your X-rays to show my students what a perfect thigh looks like?" So on the
Oh, that's
outside, it didn't look like it, but on the inside, it was, and it was just so ridiculous. So, and I had been to, acupuncture. I had been to lymphatic drain massage. Like this had been like 15 years in the making.
mm-hmm.
And this one person in my life said, "Go and try this guy. He's a naturopath. He works with UFC fighters to keep them within their weight class, and he works with NHL players." And I was like, you know what? One more time isn't going to hurt. And I went to see him, and he did a bunch of tests. So there was some cortisol testing, there was some food sensitivity testing, and throughout all of that, I lost 8 centimeters on my calves alone. From understanding the results of the testing and then changing what I was doing. So managing the cortisol, managing the food sensitivities. And we're talking like gluten, dairy, soy, egg white, oats,
Yeah.
like it was a very limited diet.
Yeah.
But I still had the shelf on my legs. And during the pandemic, it started moving up to my
Okay.
arms.
Oh
And it
no.
was getting worse. Yeah. Yeah. So that stuff initially helped. And then it
Yeah.
didn't, right? With the
Okay.
pandemic and
Yeah.
things like that. So,
Yeah.
and it continues, but I'll stop. I'll pause there just in case you have any questions.
Well, the pandemic, I mean, so cortisol, first of all, I feel like cortisol testing should just become like a mainstream thing, especially for women, because it's like it's so bad on our bodies, but it's bad for too much of it is bad for men and women.
Right.
And I think that it's like a last resort a lot, or you have to like really ask for it, you have to pay a lot to do it. But like I'm sure that I have elevated cortisol. I'm a woman, I like am self-employed, and like the world is expensive and stressful. So I'm sure that I have high cortisol, and I have so many clients that I think would just benefit from like a full what is it when you like send out to get all your hormones and everything tested. I think everyone should have that done every year to see if something's off.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you because that was really a game changer. But I've had to manage it. And it all
Mm.
hasn't always been good, right? We got it down and then it's been back up again, and it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. But, as long as you're getting the testing and you know where it's at, you can then manage it even better.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I mean, anytime that something is off, or like we're triggered, or we're having
Hmm.
panic attacks, or whatever, it's just an invitation. It's basically saying, look at me, right? But that's
Yeah.
so frustrating for you because you looked at it in every way you possibly could for years.
Years. And then, so if it's okay, I'll continue the story.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it was 2021. So unfortunately, my step grandmother passed away, and I ended up in the UK. And I was talking to my cousin, and she was like, "You need to watch Love Island UK because this woman on Love Island UK has the exact same thing that you do." I was like,
Really?
what?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to try this. So I went on her YouTube, I watched it, and I was like, that's exactly what I have. And she was talking about this water assisted liposuction that only a few specific doctors around the world actually do, and how it really changed her relationship and her dynamics with the lymphedema within her body. And so I did some research, and literally within like 4 or 5 months, I had my first surgery booked with a surgeon in Beverly Hills.
Okay, well, that's a good place to go for liposuction.
I mean, it's water assisted. It's very specific to lipedema. And he
Okay.
has been studying lipedema and doing this for 40 years.
Okay, can you describe, so I know you said that there was like a shelf, but can you describe like symptomatically and aesthetically, in case any of my listeners might also happen to have it, like what is it? Like what are the telltale indicators that someone
Yeah.
might have lipedema?
Well, and it's different for everybody. So what I would suggest is that you go into Google and you press lipedema, and pictures, if you go to images, it'll show you all 4 stages. And you'll
Okay.
actually look at that image and be like, I know somebody like that.
Okay.
Because you would have seen other women who have these types of symptoms. Some people, their legs feel really heavy. I only
Mhm.
got that when I sat too long. Like if I was at a conference or a trade show and I sat too long, my legs got like a brick. They were a brick. They were really heavy. The fluid wasn't moving properly. Yeah, yeah. And also, you get what is that called? The cottage cheese behind your legs.
Cellulite.
Cellulite. So you
Hmm.
get cellulite a lot sooner and a lot easier. But really, what it is that the fat does not run through your body like everybody else's. And so it gets stuck within these little pockets, and it creates scar tissue. And as that scar tissue builds up, it makes it even worse, and it can't travel. And so it just starts to stick. And so your legs get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it does travel. I mean, it does do arms and things like that too.
Wow.
And you can't just
Okay.
exercise it out. Like you would
Yeah.
look at somebody that has lipedema and be like, you just need to watch what you put in your mouth and you need to exercise a little bit more. But they
Which is what
can't.
they told you.
Like that's not the cure. And there
Mm.
is not necessarily a cure. There's management. And the surgeries are one of those management.
So where are you at with it now? So you had the water
I had
assisted
two
lipo.
surgeries. Two
Yeah.
surgeries. Yeah. And I'm in the 1% that's got to go back for a third.
Oh.
I know, but they want my inflammation to go down. So the inflammation and lipedema with the autoimmune go hand in hand. And
Hmm.
the inflammation is really, really hard to manage. Really hard to manage. between, food, what they put in food, and having to watch your food sensitivities and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes, like, I end up eating what I shouldn't be eating because you can only manage so much when you're out
Yeah.
for dinner or you're traveling as much as I do. You can only ask so many questions of a waiter at a restaurant to find
Yeah.
out what's in the food. You know what I'm saying? So the inflammation is probably one of the most difficult things to manage, especially for
Yeah.
me.
And you know right away when it's been triggered.
Right
Yeah.
away. Right away. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow, that's like such a frustrating sort of ongoing life challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
mean, it's taught me a lot, right? I mean, it really taught me a few things. Resilience, because I kept going back. I was like, I am not happy with this answer. This is not the
Yeah.
answer that I need. There's something wrong here. I want to know what that is.
Hmm.
And then it also taught me the importance of advocating for yourself and making sure that you feel seen and feel heard.
Hmm.
Especially when it comes to your health, especially when it comes to your body, because everybody's different. And I think they've been treating everybody as a group.
Yeah.
And now we have to look at things holistically. And I will say, going to a naturopath, having that holistic sort of medicine experience is something that I'm so glad that I found it, because it's not about the medicine. It's a
Yeah.
it's about the body holistically, and it's about me specifically.
Yeah, it's personalized, which is really
Yeah.
important. And also, as I think a lot of people are aware, the more you dig into like female health and historically, a lot of studies that were done on men, not women,
Hmm.
and they're giving the same sort of medical advice. Like a female's body is going to respond the same as a male's, and
Right.
it's it doesn't. So it
Well,
just
because it even drills down even further, right, to everybody individually. So it's not
Mhm.
even just the testing on the men and the women. The testing has to be done individually.
Yeah, completely.
Right? If you've got something like an autoimmune, lipedema is going to look differently on you than it's going to look on me, than it's going to look on another person.
Hmm.
And some people can manage it through one surgery. Some people can manage it through three. Some people have to manage it their whole life in a
Hmm.
variety of different ways.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm really sorry that that has been such a like it's part of your life's work, really, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. So on a associating that, so we'll bring that into the professional world. So you had your experience growing up on the professional side of things, family business, in supply chain, with your mother and your father. That's really
And my brother. Yep.
yeah, and while dealing with these medical issues as well,
Hmm.
like simultaneously. So that's a
Yeah.
lot. So your plate's really full. So how did you, what would you say you do now, and how did you get from that to what you're currently doing? Like how would you describe that journey?
Yeah, so I went into the family business right after high school, and I started off as reception. And I honestly was really lucky because I was able to not only work during the day, but then I was going and getting courses by correspondence. They called it that before there was online courses. That's how
Mm-hmm.
old I am.
Okay.
They
Okay. Wow.
called it courses by correspondence. So they would like mail it to you, and like you'd have to do a test, and somebody would have to oversee the test in your office. Anyways, crazy. It was all before online courses.
Okay.
So I
Wow.
was doing all these courses by correspondence just to try to figure out what it was that I wanted to do, or maybe the area of supply chain that I enjoyed. And then I started side hustles. So I've had side hustles my whole life in a variety of different ways. I've had rent to
Such
own
an advocate for
companies.
side hustles. I love a
I've
side hustle.
had technology companies. I have been a business manager for a makeup company. I've had my own makeup companies. And so I'm constantly like dipping my toe and trying different things. It's one of the things that I think everybody should do is like try everything and just figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you're good at and what you're not good at. Because that's
Completely.
really going to shape, which direction you want to go and how you're going to figure out what it is that you want to do. But anyways, I digress. So I ended up 8 years in operations, 8 years in sales, and then I was director of sales and marketing, and we needed to tell our brand story. And I have no background in marketing at all whatsoever. And I was like, well, if Lewis Howes can have a podcast, why can't Sarah Barnes Humphrey? And if you don't know Lewis Howes, he's a school of greatness. He's got a really great podcast. And excuse me, I asked a guy from my customs department to be my co-host. And marketing back in 2016 for supply chain was so stuffy, so stuffy. And so I was like, you know what? Why don't we call it, or my team came up with this name, and they were like, Two Babes Talk Supply Chain. It's going to push the industry in a fun way. And it worked. We had like 1,000 downloads overnight one night. Wow. And I was like, wow, okay, I think we're onto something. And unfortunately, in the fall of 2017, my dad closed his doors. And I was out on my butt with nowhere to go. I lost my team, my co-host, but I had this podcast. And I had companies paying like $100 to come on the show. And so I had to do it. I had to learn graphic design, social media, website design. Nobody would ever hire me for graphic design. Okay, let's just put it out there. You can probably see the old stuff. It's so bad. But I did it anyways. I was like, it's okay. We got to get it out. We made a promise to these people. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to figure it out. Let's figure it out. And then in January 2018, I started the Women in Supply Chain series. And they, by April, would not come on a show called Two Babes Talk Supply Chain. So I had to rebrand it within a week to Let's Talk Supply Chain. And the rest is history. I actually worked 2 part-time jobs for the first 3 years, didn't pay myself, started building up the team. I was mopping floors. I was a receptionist at a tennis club, and I was mopping floors while I was building my podcast and my business and all sorts of things. And so now we have a team of 14 people, and 98% of those are women-owned businesses, which we're super proud about, because that in turns makes sure that, you know, it goes back into the community, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been pretty cool.
So 14 people. So is your whole company podcasting?
So it's all content creation in supply chain. So we do podcasts, we do LinkedIn Lives, we do case studies, we have lead gen programs, all sorts of stuff.
That's really exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you said for the first 2 or 3 years you were working part-time jobs, like doing all the things. And I, like any entrepreneurial listeners, I always say this, and I was given this advice a long time ago, like at the very beginning of a business, you need to treat it like a baby, right? And a baby can't walk and talk until it's at least 2. So like have other shit, have other income and other things going on, because you can't rely on a baby to take care of itself yet. It will get there, but you need to nurture it and give it space and let it grow and like have other things to rely, or savings, or like a trust fund if you're lucky, like just something, right? Because it's a lot to just start a company and be like, okay, let's go. Like it's usually not ready right at the beginning.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, and I was breaking some glass ceilings in the industry too, right? So I really, like, there was nobody that I could emulate or sort of figure out where to go with this and what to create and what else we could do and what companies would need for, you know, from a content creator or content creation. So it was really almost every single day just doing one thing and then figuring out what worked and what didn't work. And I've been doing that throughout the life cycle of the company.
Yeah, and I mean, that really is also like the entrepreneur's journey. Also circling back to what you said when you said people should try everything. Like that's just so the entrepreneurial spirit. And like you learn what succeeds and what fails through making mistakes and failures. Like that's just kind of what happens. So,
and like, most people, you know what the secret is? Most people don't notice.
Yeah.
Like you could stand up a community tomorrow and 8 people join in the next 6 months and you close it. Nobody's going to know.
Yeah, totally. What's, I'm thinking of Spanx. What's her name?
Sarah Blakely.
Yeah, Sarah Blakely. I knew it was a Sarah as well. Yeah. So, and an interview that I saw with her that I thought was so good was her father really instilled her entrepreneurial spirit in her because he was obsessed with, I think, some sort of personal development. I want to say Tony Robbins, but it might not have been Tony Robbins. But that sort of inspirational, like resilience building kind of mentality. And when she was growing up, she used to get home from school every day, and he would say, "What did you fail at today?" And he would push her and her brother to try something new every single day, even if they knew they were going to be bad. Like, go do band practice, like go join the marching team, join the library club, whatever. Even if you fail at it, it's okay, because we need to learn this as humans. Like, we shouldn't all be getting like certificates for participation, right? It's like we should be failing at stuff all the time, because it's resilience building, it's character building, and it's teaches you what you're good at and what you're bad at. So, and that's where she got the sort of like confidence and resilience to pitch Spanx in all these department stores that like wouldn't give her the time of day, and she wouldn't take no for an answer, and she just kept going back and rebranding and trying new things until finally Saks was like, all right, fine, you can have this little corner, and then it took off. So I love stories like that. So for your journey, what would you say? So twofold, I always like to ask people what their biggest rock bottoms were that kind of shaped them along the way. If yours is beyond the paper being thrown at you and the lipidemia, is there any others, or would you say those were probably your biggest like rock bottom, less like the thing that like threw you on the floor and made you sort of rethink everything?
That was the day the doors closed of the family business. I'll be honest. That was the worst day of my life, because ever since I was 16, I wanted to take over that company. And like, that's what I thought my trajectory was.
Yeah.
And so when that got taken away, I was kind of like, I don't know, who I am. Because like, this has been my identity pretty much my whole life, because he's had the company since I was like 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, and so like, who am I? What am I going to do with myself? Like, what does this mean for me? And will anybody even hire me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that was pretty terrifying. There was a lot of days where like I didn't want to get up. You know, I would just cry on the couch. And I had to also figure out how to fill the days. Because I was so used to going to an office. Like, this was pre-pandemic, so we were going into the office every day. Or I was in sales, and I had a pre-planned day full of meetings where I would have to drive to maybe Windsor, which was like 3 hours away, and do a whole day of meetings, or actually walk door to door to try to get new clients. You know, like that's kind of what I did. I think the sales aspect of my career also really shaped me as well, because there was a lot of going door to door and getting a lot of rejection. And public rejection, right? Because you're in the reception area and you've asked to speak to somebody, and they come out and they're like, no, I don't have time for you today. I'm not entirely sure why you showed up without an appointment.
What did you say? What did you have, like a blanket line that you would use, or did you personalize it for everyone? Like, how did you manage those moments?
No. It was honestly practice every single time. There were some days where I was on the phone and I was like cold calling people, and like in between calls, I'd just break down in tears, because it was just the whole, it was the whole rejection thing, and it's kind of, you know, crappy, right? Or like if they said something like that, I'd be like, oh, okay, listen, I didn't mean any disrespect. You know, I'd really love to meet with you to see how we could potentially work together, but I understand today is not a good time. Do you have a card? I'll email you.
Yeah. Yeah, when I moved to Australia, I only went for a year, but I didn't have anything lined up for work, and everyone was like, you're crazy, like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, I'll figure it out. And I really wanted to work in wine at the time. Like, okay. I love wine. So I Googled like the best wine companies in Australia, and I went with the cities that I was in. So I was in Sydney and Melbourne. So when I was in Melbourne, I found the like storefront offices of like the best wine companies in Australia. And I literally just like walked up with my CV and asked to speak to the manager. And they're like, do you have experience? And I'm like, no, but I'd like to. And like, I'm smart and I'm a quick learner. And like, you can start me on your lowest level job. And they were like, right, we'll call you. And like, there was one company that I was like, I really want to work for these people. They're amazing. They have weekly wine tastings. Like, they have wine tasters or winemakers from all around the world. Like, I want this experience. And so I called them every day for like 3 or 4 weeks. Every single day I called. And they kept being like, oh no, like the manager's not here. The manager's not here. There was always an excuse. And then one of the days I called, and the manager, annoyingly for him, he answered the phone and he was like, is this Meghan? And I was like, yeah. He was like, I'm looking at your CV right now. Like, I've been told I'm supposed to talk to you. And I was like, yes. And then he hired me for the casual floor, like additional floor hand. And they brought me in, and I was there for 6 months, which was the longest I could be with my visa. Right. But I got so much from that job, and I had weekly wine training and like event stuff. Like, it really set me up. But it's all about the resilience. You have to just, you just have to do it.
And most people will like quit after the second phone call or even the second rejection.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it takes a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think a true entrepreneur, like, you just can't let that get you down.
Yeah.
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 So what now would you say is your, like your purpose, your sort of like mission and purpose? How would you describe that?
Yeah. So, it's really interesting because, you know, I'm working this Let's Talk supply chain. I started Blended. There's some advocacy stuff in there. And last year I was like, I don't necessarily want to be known as a supply chain expert. Because I would get asked by like BBC and these different things, which I was very, very grateful for, to come on and talk about like tariffs or talk about what was happening with the truckers' strike in Canada. And, you know, these were really great opportunities and I was very grateful for them. But then I was also like, I don't know if this is my superpower. Like, I know a lot about logistics and I'm really passionate about supply chain. I know a lot about supply chain because I conduct obviously these conversations and these big brands trust me to talk about their brand. But I was like, I don't know if I really want to be known as a supply chain expert. So what is my personal brand? And so I had this like whole thing back in, 2024. And I went to the Summit of Greatness, which is put on by Lewis Howes. And I went to a workshop and they were like, your personal brand should be about one word. And I was like, man, you're crazy.
I get it to 4 when I work with clients. 1, that's aggressive.
1. And I was like, even supply chain expert is 3 words. Like, what does this mean for me? And so I thought about it. I thought about it over the course of the week before I had to fly back. And on my red eye, I got on this red eye flight, and I'm sitting there. And I'd been going through all these things for the week. Like, who am I? What is it that I do? What is it that I do well? You know, how do I empower other people? What does that look like? And I kept coming back to, I create conversations. I create safe space for conversation. People allow me to ask them questions and they actually share with me things that I don't think that they would generally think they would share. And, you know, what does that come back to? What is one word that can describe that? And so on the plane, I was like, okay, it's self-worth. That is it. That is my personal brand. That is the one word. And I got on a call with my team and they said, absolutely not.
Why?
Why? And so I started explaining to them about the safe space for the conversationalist, the feeling seen and heard. Because on my Blended podcast, a lot of times I was going back to that podcast and I was like, what do people say afterwards?
Do you know what you're describing to me?
What?
Therapy.
I was kind of doing my own therapy. I have been in therapy since my 20s. It's probably rubbed off somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking about these things, and so I was explaining to them why I thought self-worth was the word. And they were like, you know what? Yeah, I can see it. I got it. Right? People do say they feel seen and heard. They feel comfortable after talking to me on a podcast. And they were like, I get it. And they saw the vision of how to like develop the personal brand around this, and then also how to correlate it to the other things that I do. So let's talk supply chain, blended, and all that kind of stuff, the advocacy. And so that's kind of the story behind the personal brand and the purpose. So it really created this sort of like purpose, because even on the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, sure, we're talking about supply chain, but I'm still creating safe space for conversation and helping people feel seen and heard.
Yeah. Which is a really good conversation, right? People feel seen and heard, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of the purpose, and that's how I got to it. I think the journey to getting to it, and I talk about this in the book, right? Progress over perfection, getting too caught up in needing to have a purpose, right? We get too caught up in that, I think, sometimes, that we actually bring our own self-worth down because we're like, well, I don't have a purpose in life, or I think it's changing. And so what does that mean for me? And am I as good of a person, or can I have the same confidence level as I did before if I'm going to start over?
Yeah.
But why not?
Especially with starting over, because that's what we do in life over and over and over again, right? And the only thing that you get to bring with you when you do that is you. So,
yeah. I mean, I went from director of sales and marketing to mopping floors and a receptionist of an indoor tennis club. Like I would try to mop when nobody was looking.
Yeah, completely. Very humbling.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also knew that I was building this thing. I didn't know what it was. But I was like, I'm building this thing. And
so
it's
how
working.
long did that take? How long was that journey? I know you said like 2 to 3 years. So I like to also ask people about money stories and their relationship with money. And so what sort of grounding and information did you have personally about money that allowed you to get from the sort of the mopping the floors into having your own company and obviously employees?
Yeah, my mindset with money has been chaos.
Yeah.
Like throughout my life, it's been chaos. So when I worked for the family business, I was told that I would get paid for my age. I would only get paid a certain amount because I was 24. And I honestly didn't get paid my worth throughout the whole time that I worked there. And I'm not saying I had bosses in between. I'm not saying that was my family's choice. I had different bosses and different things, and I did not necessarily get paid my worth. So I lived in an environment for 20 years of always feeling like I had to prove myself, but then also not necessarily getting paid the amount of money that I should necessarily have been paid for that particular position, because a lot of times I was very early in my career in the different things that I was doing, right? I was very young. And so my relationship with money was just so distorted in a variety of different ways, right? Because, of course, your parents own the company, so everybody assumes all sorts of things about you. And then, you're working 12-hour days to prove yourself, but then you're not getting paid as much as everybody else. And then, I was given an opportunity when my great aunt won the lottery in the UK. She gave some of the grandchildren some money.
Wow.
And so that really helped me. So early in my 20s, I was able to buy a house, right? And so this is what I mean by the relationship with money was very distorted, because it was really weird. Like it was, anyways. It was very inconsistent. We didn't really talk about it. There was a lot of pressure around money, especially with owning a business, right? There was a lot of discussions in the household about money in a variety of different ways. And then when the doors of the companies closed in 2017, I was out on my butt that's when I was kind of like, holy shit, like, what am I going to do? Like, I've done nothing else my whole life. I've never even been on an interview. Like, what am I going to do with myself?
Yeah.
Right? I don't have this like huge nest egg that I have been able to put aside because I've also been trying to live, you know, basically on the salaries that I was given. And yeah, so then it was just sort of like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to go get part-time jobs, which I've never really had before. I had side hustles that I'd always done for free as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The exchange of time and energy for monetary value is such a journey. And in the healing world, it's a really big one, like myself included, a lot of therapists. There's like a tremendous amount of guilt around like you're in an industry where you're helping people, like you don't want to charge, and sometimes it's like you're asking people to share their trauma with you and then you're making them pay for it, and so like it's really hard, but it's, as I think, again, I want to circle back to the being female. It's harder. It's just harder, and we know there's a huge gap between male, female, there's a disparity, right? And it's not an even playing field yet. I'd like to think it's getting better, but it's probably not. So it's hard to ask for your worth. And I think with most people, and I have a lot of younger female clients, it's somewhere around 29, 30 that people are like, okay, fuck this. Like, I want this much money, and companies will underpay you. If you don't ask for more, they will not ever give you more. And they will pay you as little as they will take as much from you as they can and pay you as little as they can for as long as they can get away with it. Yeah. So again, it's circling back to your advocacy for yourself. Like, I just want women to be tougher and stronger, so much younger, so that there's no more of this.
Well, and it took me into probably my 40s to really understand it. Like, when the doors closed of the business, it was around my 37th birthday. So I just want to put that in context, right? Because, like, I wasn't 25, I wasn't 29, I was 37 starting all over again.
Yeah.
And I talk about this actually in the book about how women are actually the worst around free labor and self-worth.
Yeah.
Because we actually expect each other to do things for free, and we don't necessarily like investing not in ourselves or in the women who are running the businesses. Yeah. And I know that's probably not going to be something that everybody wants to hear. But as somebody who's had a Woman in Supply Chain series, who's run it out of my pocket because I couldn't get sponsors, and I've watched women be featured on this series and not put it out there. Like, I've had no support around the series. Wow. People want to get on. People want to get on all day long. And I have a long list of people to feature.
Yep. I can relate.
Yeah. And then, like, you know, we start communities for free for women. So they don't have to spend money to join the group. Okay, well, that is a race to the bottom, because somebody is running that group and it's taking time, money, energy, and resources. And for somebody to look at two similar groups and say, well, this one's $199 and this one is free, I'm going to go with the free one. And then what happens is those groups usually fold because at some point they don't want to do the admin work for free. Because what we convince ourselves is that we are doing something that's going to make an impact, and we're doing it for other people. But what we forget is what we need for ourselves to be able to thrive and actually make an impact and actually move it into communities and make a wider impact, because you can only do so much when you've got a free group, and we expect people to have free groups. And we don't spend the $199 a year to be part of a group because it costs money to run a community. Right? And so therefore we're not investing in other women, we're not investing in ourselves, and we're expecting it for free. And that is also what everybody else is doing of women, expecting things for free. And that is what we are expecting of ourselves. And that's what I went through, right? Like my parents owned this company. I had a full-time job. These people, this woman entrepreneur was, starting her business, and she was, she was doing great, but like, she wasn't making a massive amount of money. So sure, I'll be your business manager for free. Sure, I'll use my gas to go to all these places to help you sell makeup. Sure, I will do all of these things. And then, soon enough, I started to get resentful.
Yeah, and that resentment that's a really big indicator. And I've had coaches say this to me. My supervisor has said this to me when I've discussed my own like rates, like what I charge with clients. And if there is a client that's like, taking too much or like really demanding of my time, or I feel exhausted afterwards, it's resentment is the key emotion. And if I'm starting to feel resentful about my relationship with someone, be it monetary or, even like friendship or dating or whatever, resentment means that you are putting in more than you are getting out. It's depleting you. And that's a big, big indicator.
Do you know what the other red flag is? When they
Which one?
start asking too much of you. Like one of the things that was being asked of me was they were upset that I wasn't going to a trade show with them because I was going on my honeymoon. So the expectations from the other person start materializing, and they're not actually, responsible expectations. They are like wildly out of control expectations.
Yeah, and that's really disrespectful. It just shows that like they don't value you as a person. Like your honeymoon should cost pretty much everything,
But that's the point, right? If you're putting yourself out there and you're doing all of these things for free, it indicates to everybody else how you feel about yourself, and it gives them permission to treat you that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do find that when I first started freelancing, it was a really long time ago, it was the clients that were paying the least, right? That like I had to really negotiate the rate with, and they were the lowest paying clients. They would, nickel and dime me, as my mother would say, like just try and get every last cent, email me out of business hours, ask for ridiculous things an hour before they were needed. Like it was just ridiculous. Whereas the clients that paid the most were like super happy to be working with me. They're like, we love what you do. We trust you. Thanks. And they'd pay the day I gave them the invoice. Those are the best clients. We love that.
Yeah. And actually, funny story. So I mentioned earlier that people were paying $100 to come on the show.
Yeah, that's
one
cool.
day I had a guest come on, and he was like, I would have paid $1,000 for this. So the next day I started charging $1,000.
Wow.
So
And
there's
people-
also so there's also a way for you to really get to know and understand your market. And sure, you have to start somewhere. You don't necessarily always have to start for free, but you can build it up over time. I mean, people change pricing all the time. People change pricing on a yearly basis.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the raising rates conversation has come up with a lot of people I know, and I know a lot of business owners, and it is, the first few times you do it, it's really scary, but what you notice is that the people who drop off or can't pay it probably weren't the best fit to be working with you anyways, and the ones that are happy to pay it will, and they do, and it's because they want to work with you, right?
Yeah. Did it make you sick to your stomach? Because I know I was like, I don't know if I can press send on this.
And that would scare me. I would be like, oh my God, no one's going to work with me ever again. That's terrifying.
Right?
Yeah, that would scare me. That's a big jump. I don't think I could do that big of a jump. But I
ended up, after that, I ended up getting a business coach, and that has helped me tremendously. So I will say.
Yeah. I'm actually working with someone myself with a business coach. Because I think, like I am a coach, but we're all at varying career stages, and like therapists should be in therapy, coaches need coaches, so I have both. and I am a therapist and I am a coach. So I think, these things are important. So yeah. Wow, okay. So thinking back on your journey and where you are now, like safe, secure, the head of your empire, what would you, reflecting back to your lowest rock bottom moment, so probably the day that your dad closed the doors to his business, what advice would you today give to Sarah that day?
You know what? It's probably not advice, but I would tell her how proud I am of her in that moment. And that there is still so much growth and so much potential that's going to come that like you don't even know what's even possible today.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
How
think at
many
that
years
point
ago
she
was
would have
that?
needed it. Huh?
Yeah. How many years ago was that?
That was 2017, so that was like 8 years. Hmm.
Wow. What a
And
journey.
like literally around this time, I know this is coming out later, but like when, like around the time that we are, because my birthday is on Thursday. So it was
Oh,
literally
wow.
like this week, 8 years ago.
Well, happy almost birthday.
Thank you. I don't remember the actual date of the doors closing. I do remember though on my birthday walking into the office and being told like your expense check is going to bounce. There's no more money. Like it's over.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was
So is that
literally
why
on my
your
birthday.
dad closed? Just like business wasn't going well and they just had to shut down?
No, it was going it was actually going very well. But logistics can be a bit of a risky business with
Mm.
in relation to taxes.
Yeah. I hate taxes.
And if you think about like an insurance bond, there's
Yeah.
insurance bonds that are in place to help with that risk. If the insurance bond company, so there was a bunch of different things. The bank was involved, the bond company was involved, customers were involved because they didn't want to pay the taxes directly to the government, and so they
Hmm.
were paying. It was just a whole thing, and the banks pulled the lines of credit.
Wow.
Yeah, 150 people out of work.
Oh God, that must have been
Yeah.
so incredibly
Yeah.
difficult for everyone.
Yeah. And it
Wow.
wasn't like he didn't try to save it in a variety of different ways. I just I it just wasn't meant to be,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. But you were I mean, that is definitely a rock bottom if I've ever heard one.
Well,
That is throw you on the floor, reassess your whole life. That's a
yeah.
rock
And you
bottom.
know what? So that day, our VP, because I was in tears, like I was uncontrollably crying. I could
Yeah,
not
of
stop
course.
crying.
Yeah.
And he went around to everybody telling them that I needed a therapist because I couldn't get my shit together. So, like, to make it worse, like, talk about kicking somebody when they're down. Oh, she's
Even
crying.
worse.
Let's go tell everybody that she's unhinged.
Oh my God. I
I
mean,
know.
yeah, that's not the kind of person you want to work with anyway. And now you have your own team, and I'm assuming that you probably vetted and chose everyone that you
Yes.
work with. So it's
Mhm.
you're in a better place. I can relate to there was a company that I worked for. It was the last company that I worked for before I became freelance, and I left in 2019. But I worked for them for almost 5 years, and they got bought. Like they had to sell half the company. And it's so funny because in the lead up to it, there was all kinds of like weird things happening, but no
Right.
one pieced it together. And then the day when they made the announcement that like two-thirds of the company were going to be let go, they were selling half the business, like all this stuff. And we started like piecing together. We were like, oh my God, it's
Right.
so obvious. But it was a family run company. It was one of the oldest family run businesses in the UK at the time. And we just all thought we were so safe. And when I got the job with them, I thought that was going to be my job, like until I retired. And I was so happy when I got that job. And I had just been promoted, and I hadn't been in this new promotion for, I think it had been just over 6 months. So when this announcement came out, I felt like I'd worked so hard for so long, and the rug was just pulled out beneath me. And I was sent home by by the head of marketing that day because I couldn't stop crying. I was inconsolable. It hit me, it hit such a nerve, and I could not stop crying. And I just had to go home and cry and go to sleep. So I appreciate it's when the rug is pulled out from underneath you, literally, and then you reassess. So.
Well, and you watch like your family members who have fought for this company for so long and put their blood, sweat, and tears stand up in front of the people and say,
Ugh.
Like that, like it was a combination of how I was feeling that day, how I was devastated for like the family as a whole, and watching my dad get up in front of everybody. I knew my brother was off site getting in front of everybody, and I was just heartbroken. I was heartbroken for everybody involved.
Yeah, it's really
and of course everybody wants to find somebody to blame. Everybody wants to find somebody to blame, and there was all sorts of stories, and people were upset, and of course that they were upset. But I think a lot of times in situations like that, we do have to remember that most of the time there's a lot of things that are done outside of control and somebody's control, right? Because there's a lot of outside factors when you have a business. And there's a lot of things that you're juggling and trying to, make sure that stays afloat so that everybody has food on the table, And it wasn't because of bad intentions. It wasn't because, somebody didn't try hard enough. It was just something that happened, and so it was just devastating and heartbreaking all at the same time. Watching everybody just go through whatever they were going through that day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you will remember that day.
I
That's
never
imprinted.
forget it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, on that note, thank you so much. This has been so inspiring, and I think that a lot of people have a lot of lessons that they can take away from this conversation. So
I hope so.
Yeah. Thank you
so much for having me on the show. I mean, I love what you're doing. I'm so glad that we got connected, and I can't wait for you to be on Blended. Can I tell everybody where they can get the podcast?
Yeah. Completely. So if people want to find you from my show, where can they find you? Where's the best places to look you up? And then, you can send Career Congregation to all of your people for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So Instagram is Sarah Barnes Humphrey. LinkedIn is Sarah Barnes Humphrey. Those are my two main platforms. So go ahead and do that. The Blended podcast and what we do as a nonprofit is over at it's blendedpledge.org. So we give away grants to cover travel expenses so that diverse voices can say yes to speaking engagements. And so on that website, you can find the podcast where we talk about inclusion in the workplace. You can apply for a grant. You can donate as an individual. You can also apply to be a volunteer as well. So just wanted to throw that out there. And then for the other podcast, it's letstalksupplychain.com.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I think I said that I would be on the one that's coming in January, that I think it's about diversity and diversity in the workplace or something like that. Anyway, I'm really excited to be on it and see who I'm matched with to talk. Yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah,
and if you want to go and grab the book on Amazon or head over to sarahbarneshumphrey.com.
Yeah, and I believe the book is like a number 1 on Amazon. And what category?
I can't remember the categories. I think one of them was women's spiritual, because I do talk about this energy healer that helped me also figure out my one word.
That's amazing. Love it.
Number 1 Amazon bestseller, which I am just grateful to everybody who, supported the launch of the book. And we did that within 2 weeks. So super exciting.
Nice. Well done. And thank you so much for everything. And I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Meghan.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Career Congregation. I hope it gave you something to think about or inspired you in some way. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to like, subscribe, or share this episode with someone you think it might resonate with. Every bit of support helps. If you know someone who you think would make a great guest, please send them my way via the link in the show bio. And if you'd like to support the show and the work that I do, you can buy me a coffee via the coffee link also in the show bio. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week for another conversation about all things career.